Okay, well, today we're going to talk about the psychological benefit of making pointless things. Well, what do I mean by pointless things? One thing I found is that when I'm doing the same kind of high effort, monotonous work, kind of week after week after week, you can kind of feel like the startings of burnout coming to sneak up on you and pulling you down, making you want to stop doing that work. And negating that frustration is very important and usually quite difficult for creators which are accustomed to having to come up with new ideas all the time while they're making content. Now, I think obviously there are some, pretty common sense things that a lot of people do to avoid burnout. One of them is just taking a break. I found that that's not particularly effective for me, and that's what the point of this video is about. So the psychological benefit of making pointless things, I found that for me personally, and this is not going to resonate with everyone, but I thought I might as well share it. The thing that helps me avoid burnout more than anything else is taking those same skills which I'm using to feel burnt out in the first place and applying them to something completely random and completely different. This channel you're watching now is the perfect example of that. That was one of the main reasons for this channel. There are a few main reasons. One of them is to have a space for discussion content. One of them is to kind of distill down like super fans of the main channel and have a space where they'll be able to engage in a more active way, I guess, or with more cognitive content. And another reason was, and I had explained this in previous videos, a way for me to subvert that burnout feeling from the main channel by making completely different stuff on a second space like this. This stuff is much more low effort. Doesn't necessarily mean it's lower quality, but it's lower effort to put together because it just requires some trimming and that's about it. It gets my mental space away from the higher stakes content, and there's something quite enjoyable about that. When you're thinking about doing the work, the editing, the making the videos, the recording and all that stuff, it should be somewhat enjoyable because what's the point in doing it if you hate it? But when you're stuck in like a high stakes environment like that, it becomes more difficult over time to focus in on the enjoyable parts of the process. So for me, the reason I think why taking a break never really worked was because of the principle I call the time folding principle, or the perspective folding principle, however you want to think about it. Where like when you're working, you're in a certain perspective, like a work perspective, your day-to-day life, you're staring at the screen. This is a space that your mind compartmentalizes. When you move away from that and go somewhere completely different, like on a holiday, for me, it doesn't feel like these two timelines are stringed together. And like going on that holiday is somehow, kind of diminishing the pain of this one. No, in my mind, that space folds up and we're opening a completely different one. We're now in holiday mode and we're enjoying everything within that perspective fold. As soon as the holiday is finished, we come back to the work fold, opens up and it was exactly the same as it was before. So the stress is still there, we've just avoided it while we've been away. And now we've come back, we've opened it up, oh yeah, I hate this, So I don't think that works. Just taking a break and separating yourself from it isn't really effective for my mind. I'm sure it's effective for a lot of other people. But for me, because I guess I tend to compartmentalize experiences a lot, it doesn't really work. So the thing that's better for me, as I said, is keeping that fold open, but injecting different experiences inside of it. So again, this is an example of doing that. What that means is when you're visualizing the total sum of experience for that perspective, so in this case, while I'm visualizing the work I'm doing, it's not all frustration. It's scatterbrained, it's noisy, it's random, it's a mix of positive and some negative emotions. It's not just all a continuous negative mess, kind of leading into a final state of burnout. I think it's also important to keep like new sources of inspiration feeding into that as well, which is why I like doing, random art projects as well as kind of more administrative type content, like, just talking about new things in the community, talking about news updates and stuff like that. I think it's good to mix in stuff that is more series-like that, as well as things with a bit more depth, so things which are a bit more artistic. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention in case there's anyone else out there, anyone else with like a creative personality that seems to have trouble again with a similar thing, who also gets annoyed when people say to them, hey, you should just take a break. In some cases, it's actually worse for the mental health. I've gone on holidays, taken breaks before, and it's made me feel worse because I'm away from work. It's not necessarily because I'm afraid that things are going to reduce in terms of statistics while I'm not working on it, although that is a part of it. It's more like my brain kind of like cringes and gets anxious and weird if I'm not making stuff. Even if I'm not going to show it to anyone, just the feeling of being productive and completing tasks is like an integral part of my personality. It's something I have to do, and just taking a step away and pretending that part of my personality doesn't exist causes much more stress and frustration than it's worth. So I just thought I'd make this video to give a bit more representation to any creative personalities that might feel the same way and that might want to experiment with other kind of techniques for trying to avoid that burnout. Basically, again, for me, it's like taking that perspective of your work environment and just messing it about in weird ways and injecting new things into it and kind of disturbing it so it doesn't just look and feel like frustration. Okay, well, maybe some of you found that interesting, maybe not. Let me know. I'm open to discussion. Feel free to write your comments. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.